It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, welcome to the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Schick, and joining me for this week's episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello all.
Holly Briggs couldn't be with us this week, but she will return next week. Hey Holly, hope everything's going alright. So guys, how are y'all doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Great.
So
And
what's
you?
been going? I'm doing fine, thank you. So what's been going on this week?
Well, this week I've been back to comics because last week I didn't have comics. I had TV. So this week I have been starting to read the Criminal Macabre Omnibus Volume 3, which is a huge book, and honestly I may still be reading it next week. But that's okay because it's a lot of fun. Cal McDonald is an interesting character, to say the least, whether he's alive or dead.
It was an interesting character, especially when we did that interview, Thomas, and we were trying to find out from a previous storyline if Cal McDonald was going to live or die.
Oh yeah, with the crossover with 30 Days and Nights.
And I believe that crossover is actually in this omnibus I'm reading. I haven't gotten to it yet, though.
I think you're right. Yeah, that was a fun interview. We need to go back and post that. I think it's on our YouTube page, but
We can link to it in the show notes.
yeah, there you go. Okay, we can do that. That'd be cool. Awesome. For me, as you guys know, I kind of took a little time off and did a little reading. I had dug up a trade I have frankly had forgot that I had. It came out about almost 5 years ago. It's called Aquaman: Death of the Prince. It was kind of a trip back down memory lane because it reprinted the very first solo Aquaman books I ever read, and these was back in the 70s. And the death of the spoiler alert, Death of the Prince is actually referring to the death of Aquaman's son, Arthur Curry Jr. Man, just looking at the art again, there was Jim Aparo. There was some Mike Grell doing backup work for, I believe, originally in Adventure Comics, and then they spun him back off into his own book. But it was really good to read that stuff again. It was really good to see Aparo's art. Man, I just miss it. I miss his work so much.
It was very distinctive, yet just on target. I thought he did some fabulous work.
I mean, it is the square-jawed hero. You look at him and there is no mistake that that's a hero, even if they're in civilian clothes. Miss his work, but it's still around for us to enjoy. So, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but I have not been watching Supergirl, but I did tune in this week to watch the Flash crossover, and that was a blast. Did you guys get a chance to see it?
Yes, I did. Loved it.
Oh, that was so much fun. I think the reason why it worked so well, I know Stephen Amell would really love to do a crossover with Supergirl, but I don't think it would be anywhere successful because the styles are just too, I mean, they're literally night and day.
Yes, yeah.
There's a pun in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I would say that she could travel to see Oliver. Obviously, he has no transport to get to another world.
Right, but why would she?
If we'll just say that she goes too fast and causes a breach, that was the whole point of Barry and the end of the program when he was trying to get back to his world. And I can see her possibly doing a breach and traveling. Why she would, that's unless something has attacked her and gone through the breach. something new that she did not know of, and she pursues it through the breach and finds Oliver.
Yeah, I just don't think it's. With all due respect, I just don't think it would work as well. Now, her coming over to an episode of Flash, the thing is the characters' chemistry works real well as the actors. And it was such a great written script. It made as much sense as a comic book turned into a TV show can, but still retaining the aspects of the comic book. You're not making it. You guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was fun. I just enjoyed the hell out of it, and of course, follow that up with the season finale of Rebels, which I will not spoil that. But that was awesome, and I can't wait for season 3, which won't start until I guess the fall of this year. But Rebels has been such a great show. This season there was a couple of clunkers, but for the most part, it's really brought back the flavor of the classic trilogy, but it's still different enough that it feels original or different, And Greg Weisman's come out and said that this next season, they're going to start trying to tie the series leading up to Rogue One and then A New Hope. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. So, been a good week.
Sounds like you've had fun.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh, I want a vacation now.
Woohoo! Let's go ahead and get into this week's topic. I was trying to think earlier today when I first heard of this in the comic book industry, and I guess there may have been some of that going on in the 90s, but it sure has picked up within the last 10 years or so, and really within the last, say, 5 or so with the return of Valiant, and it's usually Marvel and DC that are doing this, but what we're talking about is exclusive contracts for creators, and of course with the DC announcement of Rebirth this past weekend, they also announced that Amanda Conner and Scott Snyder have signed exclusive contracts to DC. So that kind of brought it up again, and we figured, hey, now it's about time. We had been possibly talking about this, so now may be the time to strike while the iron's hot. And what we were trying to want to discuss was we can see it from both sides. We can see why the creator would be interested, and it would be a good thing for them. We can see why it would be a good thing for the publishers. But is it really good for the industry? And that's not that we'll solve that riddle tonight, but we just figured maybe talk a little bit about it. Mikey, you had some thoughts?
I do, strangely enough. And you mentioned DC, but my focus here is kind of a little more on Valiant, and I find it interesting that given that Valiant was around before and they went away and now they've come back, and boy have they come back with a vengeance. They've done some amazing stuff over the last few years. I find myself wondering if with a move like theirs, which was to sign, I believe it was 15 creators all at once, I find myself wondering if they're trying to blaze a trail, so to speak. If they're trying to say, hey, these creators, maybe they don't all want to be freelancers for the rest of their lives. Right. Maybe they would like to have full-time jobs, regular benefits earning, comfortably paying, I hope, jobs. And given that they're doing that all at once like that, it kind of makes sense to me that they're trying to send a message to the industry to say, hey, maybe, over the last 20 years, there have been countless stories of behavior that, borders on abuse at times toward creators. And maybe they're trying to say, maybe if we take care of the creators, they'll kind of take care of us and continue to work hard and build these amazing stories for our fans and for our customer base. Let's be realistic. This is a business thing. And then we'll all benefit from that in the long run. And I think that's great. Honestly, that to me, because I'm a guy who's in a field that there's a lot of freelancers in the field I'm in, and I've done it a little bit, and I don't have the mentality for it. I don't like freelancing at all. It is not my cup of tea. I'm the kind of guy I need the stability of something permanent. I need the stability of something that will give me health care coverage for my kid and for my wife and for me. You know, I mean, so I say bully for them because I'm sure all of those creators out there are loving the idea of having healthcare coverage without having to jump through weird hoops and deal with salesmen and go on the government's website now and do that sort of thing.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned the 15 that just signed within the last couple of weeks. That's on top of all the announcements they made when they first started back up. There was, I want to say, at least maybe half a dozen to a dozen then that they said, hey, we signed these guys exclusively. So they've got a nice bullpen of talent that's going to be there for a good long while, and that may be part of it as well, is having a consistent pool of talent that's trying to build their world and the characters for a good long while, as well as taking care of the people who, like you said, who are trying to put out a good product that they want the customers to buy.
I could see where a company wants to tie down somebody, and not being cruel by saying that, but getting them to commit, make sure that their run on that title is going to be consistent, whether it be a writer, an artist, an inker, a colorist, a letterer, whatever. You get somebody in there and you can solidify a title. DC, by doing this with Snyder, also keeps him in the family for film versions. With Amanda Conner, she can spread out and do so many variations of some of the girl titles. And I'm not saying that she does strictly, but her rendition of Harley really made the title zoom. All of a sudden, with Connor and Palmiotti doing the writing chores and some of the art, it proved very beneficial for DC. That there is the look for the company itself. Now, if you're looking for an anti, what if your favorite writer or artist ties down with Lubbock Comics, we'll say, and I don't know if there's a Lubbock Comics, I'm just saying. But if they're tied down to something, but you would rather see them doing one of your favorite titles that they were doing prior, then it kind of irks the reader. And although it's solid for the creator, like Mike said, and Tom, you iterated, it's just that point where you're crying out for that person to come back, because maybe that title is failing now, and you've got to convince that creator to get away from Lubbock Comics. Hopefully, even a petition, but I can't guarantee that would even work.
Well, and the other side of that is a lot of creators are doing kind of independent stuff. I mean, is Amanda Conner, who gets signed on exclusively with DC, does that mean she can't put anything out through Image that's an independent type thing, that's a creator owned?
Yeah, see, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was saying we kind of don't know that at this point.
That announcement really surprised me, because I think of her and Jimmy doing a lot of stuff. A lot of it ends up in Image, but it usually starts out Kickstarter projects or something else. But that kind of surprised me that she decided that she wanted to sign on there. Maybe they've opened the door to say, hey, you have Vertigo here. You can publish stuff through Vertigo. I mean, I could see if DC's going to go this path, that maybe they say, hey, you want to be able to do stuff of your own creation that's not really superhero related. Well, we've got Vertigo here. We've just restarted it, and do that, because I mean, Scott Snyder what was it, Wake, and I know he did I Vampire, and some other things for Vertigo, and of course he did Witches for Image, but that may be an avenue for them too. Say, hey, you can have everything. We got you locked up. You can do these superhero titles or supervillain titles or whatever, but you can go over here and do your own thing, and it's your character, but we'll publish it. And so, I mean, it's kind of a have your cake and eat it too proposition. But who knows?
That makes a lot of sense, honestly. And if you want to throw another potential con in here, one of the things that it's going to give those publishers a chance to do is have a lot more influence over deadlines. They're going to be in a position to where they can push artists and writers to keep up with deadlines and not fall behind on certain books. And I don't know how much freedom the writers and artists are going to have when that happens.
Well, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
That's true. Yeah.
And another part that I thought was interesting especially with the Valiant deal, was of those 15 folks, almost all of them were artists. Now, I don't know if Valiant already has a handful of writers on staff that they're already planning on using, or if there's going to be another announcement where they hire a bunch of writers. But I just thought it was interesting that this particular batch seemed to be almost completely artists. I mean, I think there was a couple of colorists in there, and everybody else was drawing. I don't know if that means anything, but I thought it was an interesting point.
Yeah, I did notice that too. Who knows? Because there may be another batch of announcements. I think.
Well, and
go ahead.
I was saying the flip side of that is that if you want to get technical, it's the art that takes longer. I mean, you're talking about folks who, if you listen to some of the interview podcasts out there, Image has a great one, by the way. I've probably mentioned that before, but most of the artists will say, a page a day is a really good pace. Well, writers can crank out a script or two a week, so they can be writing several books, whereas an artist may only be able to keep up with drawing one book a month. So maybe that's why they're signing more artists than writers at the moment, unless there's a plan with some sort of secret Order 66 type plan that we don't know about.
Well, I'm thinking, Mike, that the industry plots out their storylines for the whole year rather than at monthly visits or something. So this artist that is working on that title A, knows that at the first of the year he's going to be drawing title A, which is not going to be produced till September. He's got that much of a leeway. Granted, there are other things that will cause a hiccup where a second artist will have to be brought in, do a filler issue, not necessarily pertaining to which is not relevant to the timeline of the series, but that filler will be able to allow the creator of title A to get caught up or something. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah, it gives them more time to get kind of ahead of the game.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Okay, so is it good for the industry? Does it make do these contracts actually make things better?
Well, I think it's going to, just from an employment standpoint, it's going to allow them to be more consistent, because they're not going to have to worry about Amanda Connor, for example. By the way, Amanda, if you would like to come on our show and talk to us about this, that'd be great. You'd be welcome. But it's going to allow someone like Amanda Connor, it's going to allow them to be consistent with knowing that she's going to be there to finish a run of something before she starts concentrating on whatever side project she's working on. She's going to be less likely to get distracted because she's getting a steady paycheck from DC. So I think from the publisher standpoint, it's going to be a good thing. I also think it works out to be a good thing for the creators because they have that same sense of stability that you can only get from having a regular paying job, not having to worry about paying an accountant to work out your taxes at the end of the year or quarterly, which is how some of that works, because the company's pulling payroll or pulling payroll taxes from your check for you. It seems like a minor thing, but hey, the tax accountancy is a huge industry, really. So it's going to let them worry less about that and worry less about when real home disasters happen and having something that they know is going to help take care of them and their families. So, I mean, I guess this sounds like from an HR standpoint, I'm not really an HR person, but it's going to create a sense of stability, which will allow the artists and the writers to do their thing, focus more on the work rather than on the job aspect of it. They don't have to be their own HR person. They can not worry about that. They can relax and focus on the book.
Does it also give loyalty for both the creator and the reader? If you know that this person is going to be here and do a run on this title, aren't you, as a reader, more likely to stay with that title? And will knowing what their growth potential is, would not the creator be loyal to that title also?
Right, and I think the point there is that there is going to be that level of consistency. I think you're going to see that, and I think we're in what's essentially a renaissance of comics right now anyway without all of this. I think it's going to be interesting to see how much it matters. I think it's something we're not going to know right now how it's going to work out. We're going to have to watch, see how it unfolds. But I think in terms of the people aspect of it, I think it's a really good step. It's a step toward something that has been a bit of a battleground for a while, which is, and this is even really another big question mark is going to be creator ownership. I mean, how much of a Valiant book is the artist who's signed to an exclusive deal like this, basically given a day job? How much ownership are they going to retain over their work at this point,
Well, like I said, the storylines will be plotted a year in advance, but I think that the creator will be able to assert some things too for the publisher to say yes or no to. And I think that is a possibility. I think that's a great freedom that they will have.
Right. And the flip side of that is basically how does the pay structure work? And well, let's be realistic. These places are companies and they don't have to publish that kind of human resource based information. They don't have to tell us how much they're paying people. It's not like in the movies where they have to tell you how much Brad Pitt makes for every flick. It doesn't work that way. This is a normal corporation. They have rules, they have laws, and they don't have to tell us that sort of thing.
And they shouldn't have to.
Agreed.
So, yeah.
As long as the creators are cool with it,
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they don't feel like they're being forced into doing something they don't want to do, which I would hope that wouldn't be the case. I'm hoping that these are all cool deals. Who knows?
You brought up something there interesting there, Mike, regarding ownership, because that's something we've been hearing a lot the last few years of legal battles regarding ownership. That could be something that maybe also in play with contracts, of characters that a said creator who's created, for lack of a better word. Okay, is that owned by the creator, or is it owned by the company, or is there a split ownership? Of course, we'll never know that, and that may be something that's never even discussed. I don't know. But that could be something that's also in the play here, too. because that's been with the advent of multimedia, whether it's video games, animated TV shows or movies, live action TV and movies and all that, we're seeing these characters come to life. And we hear about some of the creators whose characters that they've given birth to decades ago, and if they get anything, it's very little, or there's fights for just even name recognition, saying created by or thanks to, that kind of thing. That may, I don't know if that stuff's in the play or not, but that may be something that's discussed. I don't know.
I imagine it is discussed at some point, but we may never know the extent to which it was discussed.
Right. But I'm sure that get called into play as well, but maybe, I don't know.
Well, I know of some characters now that are already owned by somebody. Marvel has the rights to, what was Howard Chaykin's character? Domino Chance?
Dominic Fortune?
Fortune, thank you. Dominic Fortune. But rarely do you see Marvel print something with Dominic Fortune if Chaykin is not involved. That could have been part of his contract for the creation of that character.
Right, and that would have been long enough ago that maybe all of the Superman stuff hadn't really even started yet, or at least it hadn't become big news yet. I mean, I'm not sure the time frame there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dominic Fortune started in the late 80s, I believe.
Oh, so it would have been after all that started, right?
Probably. I think the first of it started probably early 80s, something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking it was around the time of the first movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so at that point, Chaykin would have been wise enough to have seen some of that going on and asked Marvel for it, basically. Asked Marvel for some sort of either control or at least recognition for his creation. Kind of started that ball rolling.
That's true.
Okay. Good talk. Anything else y'all want to add before we wind this up and go into this week's picks?
I think we're good.
I think
Nothing
we're good
here.
too. Yeah, well, like I said when we started this, we weren't going to solve anything, but I figured we would have some interesting talk, and I think we accomplished that.
That's the best a humble little podcast can hope for, I think.
All righty. So when we come back, we'll do this week's picks. And we're back. We are doing our picks, and I'm leading off this week. And in honor of Holly not being with us, I actually will have 3 picks. So this ought to be fun. My first one is Black Panther #1. Obviously Marvel Comics, just in time to get you ready for his big screen debut. Written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, with art by Brian Stelfreeze, who's one of Les and mine's, I don't want to say favorites, but it's definitely one that we really love his art. I've been excited about this one for a while, and so it's finally coming out. It seems like he never has a long run, but he's always had a series. So hopefully this one, although with Marvel's, hey, we'll do 12 issues and cancel it and do it a new #1, he may not have a long run this time either. So, no, I'm sorry. That's just kind of the way they're going. So,
I think it's going to be a fairly good run for him because Marvel has had good luck with Inhumans, which was another title that would not get the length, and I think Inhumans is going to keep running for a while. So I've got good hopes for Black Panther.
well, I'm not saying that I'm afraid it won't last. I'm just saying the way they kind of plan things out now, more like a TV season. So there will be a definite run, and then they'll stop it, and then they will issue a brand new #1 and start over again. it's kind of a mentality I don't particularly care about, but that's the way they're doing it and successful.
I agree.
So
We're in the era of the reboot.
Mm-hmm. So, my second choice was a title I had not heard about before, but apparently it's come out in black and white form before, and it's now getting the color treatment. It's from Image Comics. It's called Grizzly Shark, written and drawn by Ryan Ottley. It just, I mean, just the cover alone with the fin out in the middle of the woods, just looks like it's just. I mean, it's not going to take itself seriously. It looks like it might be a lot of fun, and considering how popular Shark Week is, it seemed kind of a no-brainer to do something a little different, but still kind of take advantage of that popularity. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun read, I bet. And do y'all want to say something about that?
I think you're right. Seeing the title for the third book of the series, I think this is going to be fun and games. This is not a thinker. You can put your brain at rest for this one. It's going to move fast, so I think it's going to be pretty interesting.
And my third choice is from Darby Pop, which is, I know, one of Mike's favorite publishers.
Woo!
Bruce Lee, The Dragon Rises, #1. And it's written by Jeff Klein, but it's co-written by Shannon Lee, who is Bruce Lee's daughter. And the whole concept is that he never died. He's still the same age as he was before, but he doesn't know what's going on, and he's being chased by mysterious people. It kind of sounds like a going to be an interesting little book, and the first issue is actually double size for a regular retail price, so you can't beat that.
Should be some fun action stuff going on there.
I would think so. Those are my picks. Les, what do you have?
I'm going to start with Gold Key Alliance by Dynamite Entertainment. Phil Hester, writer of Wonder Woman, and Brent Peoples, who we really enjoyed when he did Last of the Greats, are bringing the characters of Turok, Magnus, Solar, and the Mighty Samson into the 21st century and pitting them together to overcome the stigmas of what's going around them. They're out of time, out of place. This is going to be something to mull over. And I think the key here, no pun intended, is to take these old characters, bring them back, and possibly redistribute them for their own titles. I'm hoping that that's where they will have a breakout for it. The second one I've got is from Aftershock Comics. Adam Glass and Pat Olive are bringing you Rough Riders. In this one, this is another teen book I'm looking at. You have Theodore Roosevelt, Harry Houdini, Annie Oakley, and Jack Johnson fitting themselves together because of the sinking of the USS Maine. The Maine is sunk by alien technology. Teddy and the Rough Riders are off to Cuba to find out exactly what's going on. My third choice is just for fun, The Three Stooges, The Boys Are Back. This is a publication by American Anthology Productions. Writers are S.A. Check and J.C. Vaughn, with Brendan Frame and various other artists. What's going to be fun about this is that it's new original stories, and the covers are just too much fun. You have the main cover by Chris Scalf, which is based on the short Disorder in the Court. You have a classic short photograph cover, and then you have both a photo cover and a blank variant. I think this is going to be fun because it is new stuff. It's not going to be a reprint of some of the old titles. And I'm looking forward to this one greatly.
Correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first original stuff since the early 90s? Or maybe late 80s?
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep. Go ahead, Mikey.
As a fan of the Three Stooges, I'm looking forward to that. Oh, it's my turn, actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's your turn.
Cool. All right. So my choice number one is The Wicked and the Divine. Issue 18 is coming out this week. This is a book with a huge fan base, and this is the start of a new arc. The book is by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, and it is centered on a group of supposedly divine beings. There are some very serious doubts as to how divine they really are, and there are several stories weaving around that idea alone, not to mention others, and internal politics among the group. There's about a dozen of them or so, and it's really, really beautifully drawn by McKelvey and just intricately woven stories. But like I said, this issue 18 is the start of a new arc, so good jumping on point. My second choice is a little less traditional choice. Most people outside of the gaming community will not have heard of Knights of the Dinner Table. This is issue 230 is coming out. And this book it's a thicker book. I don't remember how many pages off the top of my head it usually runs. But usually the first half is the continuing story of a particular role-playing gaming group based in a semi-fictional town in Indiana, and their hijinks and escapades and the stories that they weave and come up with. And if you're a fan of fantasy role-playing at all, you've probably heard of this book. If you are interested, if you've ever played the game Munchkin, other than that, this book, you will like this book. It is a slightly higher price point, but that's because this, as I said, the first half is this comic. The second half is essentially a gaming magazine. There are book reviews and game reviews in there, stories and bits and pieces. They have actually built a role-playing game based on the game that the guys play in the comic, which is similar to Dungeons and Dragons, but isn't quite Dungeons and Dragons. So several years back, they went back and bought licenses for early versions of D&D and built an entirely new game system based on that. And so a lot of the stories are based around that, and a lot of really useful game tips and anecdotes. And it's a lot of fun for somebody like me who doesn't get to game as much as they would like to because of other commitments. But there's a comic element, so I figured, why not tell people about it? That's what I got.
Cool.
I enjoy Knights. I think that's a fun book. It's very comedic in its story, so you don't have to take it just full serious.
And a lot of gaming in-jokes, too.
Yes.
Which is why I kind of liken it somewhat to the Munchkin games, because there are specific types of gamers, and this is true of board games as much as it is role-playing games. These guys are pretty hardcore, and it's a lot of fun.
Okay. How is that compared to, say, Looking for Group?
If you like Looking for Group, you'll get into the Knights of the Dinner Table, for sure. There are some differences, be they story-wise or technical. And like I said, back half of the book, you actually get some real-life gaming information. So it's useful in that regard. But as far as stories go, yeah, if you like LFG, then you will definitely like Knights of the Dinner Table.
Okay. Very cool. Alrighty. I think that's it for this week's episode. As always, we appreciate your feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. Please contact us. We have a contact page on our website, which is www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can shoot us email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. We are on Facebook, facebook.com/The Fellowship of the Geeks. We are also on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Mikey has his own personal Twitter page, and it is at Mikey Geek. And I have one as well, at TomTCGeek. And why not? Let's go ahead and pub a little for Holly. Hers is at Holly Blake, and that's Blake with 3 E's. She's also on Instagram with the same designation at Holly Blake with 3 E's. Any other shout outs or anything before we wrap it up?
No, just thanks for listening. And if you're feeling inclined, if you like what you hear, go hit the subscribe button on iTunes.
Definitely. Please hit us up on iTunes. Let them know that you're digging us. And
last time I looked, we didn't have any reviews yet, so you can be the first one.
There you go. That sounds good. All right.
And all I have to say is what they said.
Thanks, Les.
Sure.
Well said. So, until next time, y'all have a good evening and read more comics. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,